I technically suck. It's recording, and it just is what it is at this point. It's gonna be a mess.
That's fine.
so thanks for sitting through this with me while I'm a complete mess. But we're live. It is what it is. I don't even care to fix it.
I just look.
So thanks for being an adult. So as you all can see, this is my next episode about being a fan, talking to different fans across the NFL about their teams, how they're feeling, and how they feel about some things that are happening in the world of sports. So I want to have my next guest introduce himself, and then we will get into the conversation.
Hello, my name is Tahime. I have been a 49ers fan since I want to say like 1990. And an interesting fact about how I became a 49ers fan and also a Michigan Wolverines fan is so red is my favorite color. And once I realized that, hey, I like football, I just picked the first team that I saw with red that happened to be the 49ers. And for Michigan, even though we're talking about NFL, my favorite X-Men character was Wolverine, and I just translated over. And I've just kept those two teams ever since. And as we all know, well, should know, Michigan won the national championship this year. So.
Not as we all should know.
I mean, we should. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're watching or paying attention to sports.
Well, that's cool. Well, it's kind of funny because I'm a Steelers fan for color reasons too. Like when I was a child, I picked them because they
Yeah,
were playing the blue team, and the
yeah.
blue
So
team
it's
was
like
the
it's good
Cowboys, and
though.
the yellow team was the Steelers.
Yeah, and I, I'm not a bandwagon fan at all. So I stuck with them through the tumultuous seasons we've had, and then the rise and fall of Kaepernick and everything like that, and then we had the main man, Mr. Irrelevant now. So
Oh gosh. Okay. So Brock Purdy is a trigger word, so I'm going to ignore
I didn't
it.
say his name, you did.
I'm going to ignore it because he's so irrelevant. Like when you say irrelevant, like it triggers. I'm like, oh gosh. So you talked about how long you've been a fan. The one thing I am curious to know is I feel like all fans have been through like the real fans, right? The true like fans that have been here forever have been through like the good year, not every organization because some of them have never been anything, but let's talk about that a different day. So you have like your good times and then your bad times and then your good times. So I appreciate you calling that out because that's just how this rolls. That's part of being a fan.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about free agency. How did the 49ers do in free agency? How do you feel about what they did in free agency? What are your thoughts?
So free agency, going into free agency, for me, I think was going to be really interesting because uh, around the trade deadline, the Niners made a lot of moves for the interior defensive line and defensive ends. We picked up Randy Gregory. We picked up Purnell, I think, at the beginning of the season last year, and then we picked up a couple different other pieces. And my thing was, I wanted to try to keep all those pieces because those pieces were at one time, whether it be 2 or 3 years in the past, they were really, really good at the positions that they played. But we all know players decline. They're not, what they once were at some point, but they were still productive players. And I wanted to try to keep all of those. But during this season, they didn't produce like I thought they were. So for them to let them go, like I wasn't too upset about that. I would really like for them to keep Randy Gregory, but they weren't able to do it. But through free agency, we did get Floyd Leonard. So I feel like that was a really, really big pickup because he is still one of the top tier defensive ends, and to put him on the other side of Bosa, that would help. I don't know kind of how they used to run their schemes under the previous defensive coordinator who was since let go. So hopefully they can do some things to get those guys free because the defensive pass rush last year was almost non-existent. They really had trouble.
No, go ahead.
I'm saying they really had trouble with that. So I don't know if it was kind of the thing of they just went quantity over quality with those guys last year. And this year now they're kind of switching it for just the quality over quantity because they did get Leonard. They did get Devon Campbell as a linebacker. And we all know we needed that just because of the issue that we had with Jerry Greenlaw, him going down. We needed somebody to kind of step in and fill that role. Because when he went down, Fowler came in, and I think it was like 2 plays after that they burned him. They burned him for a touchdown.
Listen, he's no Greenlaw. He's no Greenlaw.
There's no Greenlaw.
There's no Greenlaw. Yeah.
Yeah. So
speaking of my guy Greenlaw,
Mhm.
Tell me about his recovery. How is he looking? What is the team saying?
So the team is saying basically they're not going to put a timeline on it. The way it's looking right now, they're hopeful if it's going to be a week 1 return. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was week 4, week 3, something like that, just to give him some time. You don't want to rush a guy like that back from something like that. It happened again. In his case, because he is so good, he is such an integral piece to the team. You have to think about longevity. We can
Yep.
go 3 weeks without him, 3 or 4 weeks without him, especially with these new pickups that we do have. Like if you have a decent defensive coordinator that can't scheme around that hole for 3 weeks, then we need another defensive
You
coordinator.
need, I
So
agree. And I think that's the joy of having a great team is that, yes, you want him. And yes, it would be great if he could play every single game. But the reality is he might not be able to, but you can figure it out for a
yeah,
little bit until he can come back. So has Fred Warner had any big injuries?
no, he
Like
has not.
major?
He
Okay.
has been, kind of like Wolverine, just invincible.
Pillar of consistency.
Exactly, just running around flying across your screen every
Seriously.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Holding it down, doing what he has to do. So.
Yeah. As a Steelers fan, I will always respect linebackers. So I don't care what anybody says. As a Steelers fan, I will always go to bat for an offensive line. I will always go to bat for some linebackers. I don't care what anybody has to say about those guys. And
Yeah,
a nose tackle, because one of the reasons why I stuck by the Steelers at the time as I was getting older, one of my favorite guys that came out of the University of Texas, Hookem, happened to play nose tackle for my Steelers, and it just works. So those guys will always have a special place in my heart.
yeah, I think linebackers really make up the personality of that defensive side of the ball, right? Like how good are your
Yeah.
linebackers? If your linebackers are good, that just gives you so much flexibility with the guys in front of them and the guys
Yeah.
behind them, right? Because if you don't have a really good back end, your linebackers, if they're fast enough and they can read coverages, then they can drop back if that could need be. You know what I mean? So if you got good linebackers, that's really going to set the tempo for your team.
Yeah. I always say, we'll get off this. I always say, like with linebackers, I feel like they're not supposed they're usually different guys, obviously, but the way that they work together is
Mhm.
like they're all listening to the same song and they just know what the other one is doing and it just works. And I
Yeah,
just don't think you can and when it's bad, but when it's good, it's like you forget how good it is because you just never think about it. You're just
yeah.
like, of course that guy's making plays. Of course he's making tackles.
Yeah, and
Um,
you see the evolution of linebackers because when we started watching football in the early '90s, they would usually run 3 linebackers. Now a lot of teams are
mhm.
running 2 in that dime package. So you have to have linebackers who can cover side to sideline. They're literally taking one side of the field, right? So these guys have to be really fast, process information as they're seeing it in front of them,
Yeah.
dissect it, know what to do. When you have linebackers that can do that, like the 49ers have, I mean, it does wonders just for the defensive mentality.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't prepare you for this question, but what about the other guy that got injured? I think he tore his ACL. The guy that everyone's comparing him to Troy Polamalu. I cannot think of his name.
Oh, Hufunga?
Yeah. Is he back? Is he ready for like camp or is he
He won't be ready for camp. Of course,
okay?
he'll probably be there just doing, the things on the sideline they usually do, warm up and
Like
things
the
like that.
bicep? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but when we go into actual camp, like not OTAs, when we go into camp, I think he'll be
He should be
ready.
ready.
Um, Definitely week 1 starter.
Okay.
Um, you know,
Yeah, I mean he's phenomenal. Listen, like
yeah,
got it. Like he'll
He,
be
he
fine.
is. He
Like,
is. He's
he's
very
phenomenal.
fast. He
Yeah.
digests information really quick, especially on that back end. And he can see things. But we
Hmm.
did in free agency, we did kind of shore up the back end some. We picked up 2 we picked up 2 cornerbacks, and then we also got another safety and re-signed a safety we already had.
Got it. Well, I'm just going to tell you, like I told the Bills fan that I talked to, is the whole world is cheering for you guys anytime you play Kansas City. So whatever you guys have to do to kind of figure that out,
Yeah,
just kind of figure that out for the rest of us, please. That would be fantastic. Because that's
yeah.
the
So
same thing
everybody
I
can
told the
see the
Bills fan.
season
Yeah,
blueprint. I mean, we had it. I feel like until Dre got injured, and then
it just.
maybe we just didn't understand the overtime rules or whatever. But
Oh god. Oh god. Okay, I'm triggered. Okay. So the next question is, how did you feel your team did in the draft? And what was your favorite pickup and why, if you have one?
The draft we did, I would say we did pretty good. My favorite pick of the draft was I mean, I would really have to go. It was between the first round pick. I like that because they went so high to get another receiver, and then in the fourth round when they got the other receiver. So their draft tells me they're more concerned about the future, right? And I mean that to say that they already have two really good wide receivers. Debo has gotten hurt.
A lot.
In all the seasons, he's been out a couple weeks here and there. Ayuk is looking for a bigger contract, and if you look at the two draftees that I just spoke about, Slick Rick and Cowling, they really resemble those two wide receivers.
That's true.
So what the 49ers can do, Ayuk, they can't you can't trade him because he only has a year left, right? There's people are just waiting for him to be a free agent, so it's nothing you can really do with that. But Debo, you can trade if you wanted to. You can trade Debo, maybe get late second, third round pick for him, and then you can use that on your back end of your defense or somewhere in that defense or the offensive line to fill a hole. But then when you give him up, you have somebody to move right back into that position, and they'll be on a rookie contract, so you'll have him for another couple of years. So I think that the way they set their draft up really tells me that they're looking for the future in one of those guys. Well, I don't think it'll be Brandon Ayuk. I think they'll still try to sign Brandon Ayuk. I just think Debo will be the first one out of the door. And it's not a hit on him. Like, he's a great player. It's a business, right? He is really like the hype man for the offense, as you can see every week. Like, he is. If they could keep him, they would keep him, right? But it's a business. And I'm sure because they do like him so much, they want to move him somewhere where, he'll have the potential to win a Super Bowl, right? It won't be one of those things where they'll just be kicking him out of the door, trying to get him out of here because he wasn't productive or they don't like his attitude. It's quite the opposite. This is really just a business decision.
Yeah. I have a question. Do you think y'all's offense is better than your defense? Or do you think the defense is better than the offense? Because I feel like it's kind of not a fair question whenever two of your starters on offense goes out. And if you look at the season, like, they weren't there at the end of the Super Bowl. Like, they actually were hurt. We just talked about them. And then the D-line didn't underperform. But historically, when you look at your team, are you thinking that they are better on offense compared to defense? Or do you feel like they're just pretty kind of balanced and it just kind of depends on the situation?
I think historically we were always better on defense. And we're not talking about the 80s with Joe Montana or anything like that. We're just talking about, I would say, last 5-7 years. Okay. I'd say we were always better on defense, and we did enough to keep the offense in the game because a lot of times we at quarterback, the 49ers, because if you look at it, Joe Montana and Steve Young set the standard way too high.
Very fair, yeah.
So everybody else coming in, you're not catching those two, right? So you're not going to be mediocre, but you're kind of just alive, right? You're just doing the job. Alex Smith was that way. Alex Smith was a good quarterback, but you really didn't see it until that last year that he was with Harbaugh. And now we have Brock Purdy. No, so we had Garoppolo after that. Garoppolo was doing pretty good, but a lot of us thought it was just because of the coaching. He really didn't, have that ability. It's I see it's triggering you, but that's fine. It's really just one of those things, man. Is Shanahan just that good that he got?
Yes.
He got everything he possibly could get out of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes.
And then Jimmy goes somewhere else, and he, now they kick him off of the team, and they just eat $30 million in dead cap space. So
Can I just say, because now I'm here.
Yeah, yes. Please.
I think
I invited you, so let's go.
Welcome. Thank you for showing up. I personally think Shanahan is such a good coach that he knows how to bring out the best of his talent. And I think it shows in the football team. I think position by position, you could argue that the 49ers might have some of the best at certain positions. I think you could argue that. And I think it would be a really good argument.
I think
go ahead.
Position-wise, so if you break down an offense and you look at Brock Purdy is not one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Hell no.
Debo, to me, is not. I think he's middle of the pack when you talk about wide receivers.
Okay.
just straight off of talent. And then you talk about Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk as a wide receiver is a little bit better than him. When you talk about route running, it's just natural ability to catch the ball. I think Kittle is a really, really good tight end because the only tight ends that are doing what Kittle can do is Kelsey, and Kelsey is way out of the stratosphere.
That's what I'm saying. But
When you
what you're
talk about
saying is
passing.
my point. And so you take Kittle, then you take McCaffrey. I mean, who's going to argue with you about McCaffrey?
Yeah,
Who's going to
McCaffrey, I think, is
argue
the
with
best
you
running back
about
in the league
Trent
right now.
Williams? You know what I'm saying? So it's like but I think that's what Shanahan does. I think that's where he excels. I think his scheme and the system and everything he puts in place works. And because it works, it's easier to buy in. You know how sometimes you go to crappy teams and you're like, they would be good if like we knew what the hell's going on or if they bought in. I think when you go to the 49ers, you know what you're going to get. The foundation is solid. You're going to buy in. Similar to when you go to the Steelers, right? You know what you're going to get.
Yeah, the same people want to be there every year in,
You know
year
what you're
out.
going to get. That's what I'm saying. And so I
Nothing on
think
the
what
walls is going to
Shanahan
change.
I think
Yeah.
what Shanahan does really well is he gets his players in and I don't want to say the word groom because that kind of sounds terrible, but he gets them where they're supposed to be and they play above maybe where they would play if they were somewhere else because the foundation is so solid.
Yeah, because of the kind of coach that he is, he motivates
Right.
them.
So then
So,
what I think
to say that, would you say that there's a lot of coaches out there that don't know what they're doing? Because if you look
100%.
at, the 49ers offense, if you sit back and you watch it from a fan's perspective, and you're just watching Sunday to Sunday, it's nothing wild and crazy.
No.
Right? They're flowing, and then they'll come back across the field. Right? They do that a lot. They set everything up with the run. So to me, it's like, yes, I feel like, and there's only a couple coaches that have done it. Andy Reid, Shanahan, who else?
Harbaugh when he was there, he made the offense look good.
Yes, Harbaugh was doing the same thing too. Everything
That's what I'm
started off the
saying.
run, and he would flow and come
The
back.
guy from the Rams coach, McVay, I feel like makes that offense look good. They're not doing anything.
And yeah, they're not. And McVay came from the same tree that Shanahan came from.
Right.
So
And so that's exactly. And that's my thing. I feel like so my whole point in saying this is that's why I've always said I think Brock Purdy is mid. And my issue is if I'm trying to be nice. If
I'm not saying he's not mid. I'm just the word you used to describe him was funny.
The thing is with word, here's the thing. I've realized football fans, like, the wording is such a big, like, nowhere in life do we as humans pay so much attention to how people are communicating. Nowhere. But as soon as you talk about a football team, it's like if you say elite, mid, not talented, not great, it's like all of a sudden we're like, so call him what you want. He's middle of the road. If I listed 10 quarterbacks in the NFL that I would want on my team, I don't think he would break my top 10. That's not a knock on him. He's in the NFL. He throws way better than I will ever throw. He's better than me. That's not a knock on him. I'm just saying if I look at quarterbacks, he's about average. He's in the average realm of quarterbacks. Would you agree with that or disagree?
I would say he's a little bit better than average.
Okay, so who would you take him? So if we listed top 10, let's just say top 10, I'm making this up. Let's say Patrick Mahomes, everybody in the AFC North. So that's 4. That's 5. So what is that? 5. I don't know what you want to do with what is the guy in like I'm not going to include Kyler Murray. Kirk Cousins is a joke. I'm not going to include Bryce Young. He's a joke. Derek Carr, absolutely not. Dak Prescott, depending on who you ask. I actually have to see Dak Prescott.
He is mid.
I think he's the same as Brock Purdy.
No. I think Brock Purdy is smarter than Dak.
So you think he's smart? But that's what I'm saying is like wherever you put Brock Purdy, he's not elite.
No, he's not elite.
Okay. So he's not elite. He's a little bit better than mid. So what is a little bit better than mid? Give me the word you would like to use. Average, better than average?
I would say above average.
Okay, above average. So Brock Purdy's above average as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think he's reached his full potential is my question. Because that's what this all boils down to. If we agree, because my argument always to this is, if we agree that Shanahan brings out the best in people, and we believe that he does his best to like get people to go and trigger and stuff like that, in my opinion, if all of that is true, I think this is the year Brock Purdy, it's like, what do you got? What do you got for me? Like, Is this
Yeah,
is this the year?
I don't think Purdy will end up being elite. I don't think he will just because of his stature, and he had a horrific injury to that throwing arm already, right? So
That's a good point.
he's not going to be slinging the ball right over people. Like I think the further he has to throw it is going to really test him in talking about ball placement and really putting the ball where only the receiver can get it. I think he's
Fair.
going to be that mid-level to dink and dunk kind of guy, and he is really going to. That's where he's going to make his money at. And I think he has a coach that can scheme up things around that can really get him
100%.
there, right? Like
Do you think
he
he's
might,
better than Trevor Lawrence?
if we're talking about like just natural ability, no. I think Trevor Lawrence
I
has
mean,
better natural ability. He's more
I'm trying to
athletic.
find his comparable. We know he's not as good as CJ
I would say
Stroud.
Cousins.
So, and this is the thing, and I will say this until it happens with the 49ers. Until the 49ers win a Super Bowl with a little bit above average quarterback, whatever the hell we want to call this man, I will not believe that what they're doing can work. And that's always been my thing with them. Like, because we've seen it now twice. They've gotten to this, they've proven they're good enough to get to the Super Bowl with the mid or whatever we're calling it. They've gotten there twice. And both times it just didn't work. And the other thing that I think happens to Shanahan, because I think that on the tier of coaching, also something happens when you're in that championship game and you don't adjust and do things better. I don't know why he gets there and then stops running the ball and does like certain things he does where I'm starting to think, is this his ceiling? Because there's the other part. Because McVay did that, went to the Super Bowl once, played against Patriots. When he came back the second time around, it was almost like he was like, okay, I know who my team is now. We're going to play this a little bit different. We're going to send pressure because we need to, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like McVay came to the second Super Bowl different. He did things differently. I haven't seen that in Shanahan. That's always been my concern until he proves me wrong. And God, I hope he does it soon and it's not against my Steelers.
So I think with Shanahan, this is very interesting too because you have to realize he lost to the same coaching staff twice.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
he lost to Spags and he lost to Andy Reid, right?
Right.
We normally do not play the Chiefs in the regular season, so we can't see them. We can't see their setups. We know Andy Reid is probably a better play caller on the offensive side of the ball than Shanahan, right? But Shanahan is right there. He's like right under him, right?
There.
But then when we're talking about on the defensive side of the ball, you had Spags 1 year against Wilkerson and then Spags against it wasn't DeMarco, it was the Jets quarterback. The Jets I can't remember his name right now.
Let's start with a G. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, so it was him, right? And I think Spags is a better defensive coordinator because he can adjust on the fly. He can go into the first half. Well, he can go and have a game plan, see how it works in the first half, and in the second half, come out and switch it up on you, right?
Right.
And I think the 49ers rely on Shanahan too much to make the adjustment in the defense really not make one. So I think
that's interesting.
I think that's where they get beat at. I've always thought the 49ers Achilles heel was their back end. Like you can always take advantage of their back end. Not so much now that we have the guy that we got from Kansas City, Javarius Ward, right? We can't do exactly what you want to do with that back end, but you usually can manipulate that back end, right? When you play Kansas City, who usually has really fast wide receivers who can break zone coverages, and then you have Travis Kelce who can really just. It doesn't matter what linebacker or what corner you put on him, Kelsey's going to eat, right? He's going to get his catch. He's going to get these yards.
Yeah.
Always a mismatch, right? So it's just really, really hard to beat that team, right? I don't know any other team that matches up with the Kansas City quite like we do or the Ravens do. And I think the Ravens match up with them really, really well just because you have Lamar Jackson. And if he can't throw it, he's going to run it on you, right? And then as soon as you adjust to bring that corner up, he'll throw it on you, right? So it's really, really hard. But the 49ers, like I said, we know what Shanahan's going to do. Spags knows what Shanahan is going to do. He'll adjust, right? And he just makes it hard for them. Like we went in the second half, I think we played better the second half of this Super Bowl than we did the first Super Bowl against them.
Oh, yeah. Well, and listen, at the end of the day, this is life. There's always going to be somebody faster, stronger, prettier, skinnier, whatever the thing is. And it's just like boxing. Sometimes somebody can just have your number. Sometimes there's just that person that you just can't beat. Like UFC, like people can run through every single person, and then they face this one girl or this one guy, and it's like it doesn't matter how many times they fight the person, they just can't beat them because that's just how it goes. And maybe, just maybe, that's the challenge that the Chiefs present. And listen, they're great. This isn't a knock on. I mean, it's a Kansas City Chiefs. Like, like they've ran through teams. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So what was what team, or as a 49ers fan, like what are your concerns? Like what are your biggest, when you look at your team, do you say, I'm a little concerned about this, or like what kind of, I don't want to say keeps you up at night because I really hope it's not that serious for you, but what about your team is concerning right now?
It's always going to be first. It's always going to be the secondary, and then second is going to be right now. It's going to be that offensive line because they're getting older. So Williams is not going to be there forever.
Oh, Trent.
At some point, you're going to see a decline in him. And then just the back end because
did they draft a tackle by chance? No,
they did.
Oh, okay.
He drafted 2 offensive linemen.
Okay.
So that back end, right? We had the one superstar at corner, and we're molding one to really step in and fill that other side. And then like I said, we got 2 in free agency, and then we got Hufunga, and we re-signed Odom, and we have another one back there too. That's pretty good. So our secondary is getting good, but those are the only 2 things that really, really. I'm not staying up at night, but like when I watch the games, I'm just hoping that nobody figures it out. Like, hey, attack that secondary, or hey, rush that offensive line because they won't be able to hold up. Those are the 2 things I'm concerned about.
That's fair. And then who do you think your hardest game on the schedule is? Or like, do you have a certain team that every year you're like, oh gosh, here come these guys. Like I know the Rams are usually like a team that always kind of gives you guys fits because divisional game, it is what it is. But is there anybody else besides them, or is that the team where you're like, oh gosh?
The 2 teams that really I would say 3 are right off the top of my head that really kind of make me wonder is always going to be the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Ravens. Just because of the way the Ravens play, just because of the talent that they have, and because of their coach, he's always going to keep them in the game. The Seahawks, we play them so much. There's such a rivalry there, so that's always going to be a tough game for us. Emotions. I think if we lose those games, it'll be emotions. Emotions just got a hold of us. Rams, they'll be hard because it's McVay. McVay and Shanahan know each other, so it'll really be a boxing match. And then the schedule hasn't come out yet, I don't think. But
no, it hasn't.
I think we're going to play the Kansas City during the regular season this year. So
the schedule is just out of who you're going to play this year, home and away, but it doesn't tell you like when or where, because where seems to be the new thing, because I heard they were doing like a Mexico, France, like all over. So Brazil? I think it's Brazil.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think we play Kansas City during the regular season, and that's going to be a game that's a telling game, because I think what teams do is, first of all, when you're a team that maybe hasn't been good or hasn't met the standard they're trying to meet, what you do is you draft or you go into free agency to try to beat your division, right? And then once you beat your division, you can get into the playoffs, and then you kind of have to look at who was normally in the playoffs and draft and free agency to beat those teams. And what the 49ers have done is, I think they did that early on when you had Shanahan, and we've just been smashing that division for the last 4 years.
You know what's kind of funny is like, it's interesting how we all look at football, because you've said 2 things that are interesting to me. You just said like you get you build your team that can beat your division, and then you go from there, which I happen to agree with. I think that's the one thing that keeps the Steelers winning more games than they lose all this time, is because historically their team is better than the other teams in the AFC North. Now, position by position, can't break that down, but we find a way to beat the teams in our division.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that you said, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly how you said it, is just when you're looking at the draft and the guys that y'all are getting, you're paying attention to what that could mean for your team, like what the draft is telling your team, basically,
Yeah.
or what the draft says about your team. And I think that
Yeah.
that's
What direction
interesting.
we're going in?
Yeah, I think that's interesting too, because I've been thinking about that since you said it. And it just makes sense to think of it that way. And my thing is I wonder if that's true to how the coaches think about it.
Yeah.
Because do you
If
think
I'm
they
if
do?
I'm just yeah if I'm looking at the 49ers organization, I know how smart Shanahan is. He's been around football his entire life, and I honestly think because some teams have it, they'll have it like a quality control guy, or they'll
Yeah.
have like a senior leadership guy. I honestly think it's Shanahan's father, because if you look at all the home
Mm,
games, Shanahan's father is there, right? And like
he
Shanahan's
is, yeah.
father was also an amazing coach too. So who is going to be his kind of right hand man, his confidant? He's going to talk football with all the time. It's going to be
Yeah,
his
yeah.
father, and his father is going to really just put those things in his mind and kind of set him up. It's like, hey, these are things that I didn't necessarily think about when I was a coach. This is the way like I would have built my team going forward, because Shanahan and the GM Lynch, they're going to be there for a while, right? So this is not
I think,
a
yeah. I think so
all
too.
the chips in on the table on this year. Let's go win, and then that's it. We can just dismantle the team. No, this is a longevity thing that they're playing, and I think Brock Purdy really helped them out, because they don't have to pay him for another 2 years, I think. But when they have to pay him, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So if you can get off of Debo's contract and then have a comparable replacement for him, you win in that position too. If you don't want to pay Ayuk at this point, you have a
They can
comparable
send him to
replacement.
Pittsburgh. Oh, sorry.
No, I don't think I'm gonna do that.
Sorry.
So there was that.
Sorry.
So you know what I mean? Like, if you just look at what they're doing, I feel like they're telling you and telling the world, like, hey, we're going to be here for a while, and we're looking just to replace people with the talent that we have. Because even with this draft, you got to remember, like, they still have players from last year that they
Yeah.
have on the roster who are more than capable. We just got to give them the chances. And Willie Snead brought up a good point. Well, not a good point. I think he was just kind of looking at it from his view and his lens only. He said the team doesn't allow people to compete. I think the team does allow people to compete, but at the same time, when you have your starters, Willie Snead is not going to come in and take Debo's spot.
Right.
That's
True. Yeah.
That's not going to happen, right? But at the same time, if you play your position and we know you're there, and Debo does go down for I would say average 2 to 3 weeks, we can put you in and know you're good to go, right? But Debo is special in a certain way that he can take handoffs out of the backfield. He can catch short routes, turn them into touchdowns. Then on the other side, you have Ayuk. Like, you're not going to take Ayuk's spot either, right? Like, people have to realize who they are. With their
I was just gonna say, and that's not. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I feel like it's the people side of us that you often can't see yourself for who you really are compared
Yeah.
to somebody else. It's like, yeah, you can be phenomenal, you can be amazing, you can be great. However, when I compare you to somebody else and look at what they're doing, they're better. It just is. But it's also the thing we love about athletes is like that grittiness. No one's better than me. I can be anybody kind of mindset. But then at the same time, it's like, but that's the NFL for you. This isn't, I always tell people, like, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. This isn't everybody gets a shot. This isn't let's rotate equally. That this isn't we have 9 plays, all 3 guys get in. No, this is we're doing this 10 times. And if our guy that's a starter wants to do it 10 times, he's going to do it. He's going to do it 10 times, and you don't get a shot. That's how this goes.
Like, they're paying Willie Snead basically nothing, and they're paying Debo everything. Like, they're going to get their money's worth with Debo. So
yeah, and he's our guy. I mean, it is what it is. It's I feel like those come out about everybody's respective teams though. Like you always have those players that
Yeah,
are kind
those
of like,
couple
yeah, well,
guys.
I didn't feel like, yeah, well, I didn't, or this, that, and I'm like, and they could be 100% right, but this is how it goes. Like
Yeah,
this isn't a tryout. This is big time football. Put your pants on. Like, let's go. That analogy was kind of
yeah,
cheesy.
like
Like, put these on, like,
see where else you can help the team, right? Like
yeah.
it's not about you,
But
it's about the team.
yeah, what a concept. So my final question is anything else you want us to know about your team, anything we should be looking out for? Um, don't talk about Brock Purdy. But anything that you feel like you would want a fan of another team to know, or maybe a 49ers fan that saw them in the Super Bowl and they are 10, 11, 12. I don't know, and they're like, I kind of like the 49ers. Like, is there anything you would want people to know?
I would let people know being a fan, right, and being a righteous fan, it's about not being a bandwagon fan, and it's about being logical about your team, right? Like, so if you ask me right now, do I think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl? I'd say no. I don't think they will.
Good for you.
I think they're going to punch a lot of people in the face, though, throughout the season. I think they're going to go far into the playoffs, and they're going to kick a lot of people's asses. But do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl? No. Because for me, no matter if they win or lose, they're always going to be my team. So I can really be logical about this and look at the NFL as a whole and look at other teams, right? So for me, when I call a team trash, you are a bad fucking team, right? And
like the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, like I don't even talk about them, right? you can have a good team.
I'm sorry to all the Carolina Panthers fans out there. You have to admit that last year was a little rough.
And if you're a real Carolina Panthers fan, right? So it's no reason to get upset.
That's fair.
There's no reason to get upset. Like so, like, and I hate this team, the Cowboys, right? Like if you look at them, like the Cowboys are trash because they have so much talent and it's wasted and it's misused, right? And I think
okay. You said something that sparked a thought. So what do you think about the Eagles?
The Eagles, I think the Eagles fall in the same boat. I think they have a lot of talent. I think their coach is stupid. I think their defensive coach is stupid. Offensive coach is stupid. I don't know.
Is that rival talk? Is that those guys? I'll never cheer for those guys.
No, because if you ask me, do I like the Philadelphia Eagles players? Yes, I do. They have a lot of talent. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I think he's being underutilized. I don't think he's being groomed to be the quarterback that he can be because of the lack of coaching experience that they have.
I actually agree with that. I think Jalen Hurts runs the ball too much too, but that's a different conversation.
I think they have amazing wide receivers, very, very talented. Their defense is always the defensive line has always been really, really good. That back end was horrible last year and it really showed. And I just think everything else that comes with that clownery out there in Philly, right? The coach and in the coach's bodyguard and the Italian sausages and all this other shit. Like, this is football. Leave that shit home. Like, let's just play football.
I love NFL fans.
And then we talk about Dallas. Like, the only thing that's stopping Dallas from being great is Jerry Jones.
100%. You know what? I haven't. Oh my gosh.
Nothing. He'll be there fucking it up for the rest of his life.
I haven't been able to talk to a Cowboys fan yet, but I cannot wait to see their thoughts because you know what?
I think most Cowboys fans who are real Cowboys fans know that.
Yeah. And I think, but can I also just say, like, selfishly, this is what makes the NFL the NFL. It's like so many people. It's kind of interesting, though, because I don't get a lot of people that like knock on me for being a Steelers fan. There's not a lot of like Steeler jokes or like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of things that people say about my team, my organization, besides the fact that like we didn't have anybody that played quarterback. And it's hard for me to actually find somebody that's like cheering against the Steelers. That's not like a Ravens fan or, even sometimes Ravens, Browns, and Bengals fans are kind of like, listen, we like Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately just a respect for the team.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like we're just.
A lot of people don't talk trash about the Steelers because the Steelers have been consistent for so many years. And like we talked about earlier, what I mean consistent is, they'll have a coach for 10 years. And that's on the minimum, right? And that philosophy with that coach stays there, right? So you know what you're going to get out of that team every year, barring injury. Is nothing. It's nothing but respect for a team that can do that. Because on the flip side, you have teams like Carolina who go out through coaches every 2 years, or
that's true.
or not the Saints. But there's so many like the Falcons every 2 years. You know what I mean? Like there's teams out there who I don't know what they expect. Right? They expect to come in and just hire this guy, have him there for a year, and he's just going to turn the whole franchise around. Like that's not going to
Well,
happen.
listen, I feel like this is that time of year though too. Is like everybody, free agency just ended, the draft just ended, mini camps are just starting, schedules about to release. Everybody is very high on their team right now, and it's a good thing because I don't mind it, because that's how you should be. You with new information, with new people, with new whatever, you should think we should be better than we were. I got it. I respect it. I think sometimes though people forget the foundation of sports and that it matters. But at the same time, if I had a like I'm a Steelers fan, so it's kind of hard for me to understand their perspective, because my Steelers have never been bad. We've literally never had a losing season. So it's like there's certain things with Tomlin. I'm just like, and God forbid if he ever has his first one, I can't wait to see how the fan base reacts, because it's one of those things where it's like you're so used to just being consistent. You're also used to kind of going up and down, but it's still, there's a foundation, there's still consistency.
There's a norm.
And so and I feel like, I don't know, I've always said this and I will always say this. I think fans take on the identity of their coach, because that's what leadership is all about. And I think that as Steelers fans, I think sometimes we can be loud and annoying. We travel well and all the things, but we also, our coach is just kind of, just cool, calm, collective stability. Just like it is what it is. If you suck, you don't play.
I've never heard of like Steelers fan beating people up. Like I've never heard.
No, I'm sure. Listen, alcohol, certain things. I'm sure.
Yeah, but not to the effect that you hear it like when you go to Oakland, or to the effect you hear it when you go to Philly, right? Like I don't think it's. I think it's you go to Pittsburgh, and it's just football. That's what it is, right? In the stadium. Yeah, I'm gonna cheer for my team. I'm gonna talk trash about your team. But after this, we can go out and get a beer. It's fine. It's no problem, right? Yeah. Because it is what it is. It's just football. Yeah. But you have some fan bases that aren't like that.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna piss off a lot of fan bases and people, and I don't really care. I think when you're used to winning, and this could go for life. I think when you're used to winning, the losses don't hurt that bad, because you're going to recover. And I think that not a lot of fan bases have that ability to think in that regard. When my Steelers lose, I'm like, we sucked. Yeah, we probably won't win this game either, but we'll figure it out. It's like it's different. And I think there's some fans that are so high and so low, and it's like, that's not how this works. But they're like that because they've never experienced the highs. They've only experienced the lows. And so when you've only experienced terrible, and then your team happens to win 5 games and now you're excited, it's like,
so you gotta chill out.
Yeah, it's like, all right. But whatever. Anyways, I'm not here to like talk about other fan bases. I just think that sometimes we lose context of like our team and who we really are and what we can do. But we can end this. I don't know if you have anything else to say about your Niners. You're not going to the Super Bowl. You'll probably win the division. If not win the division, get in the playoffs. That's about normal, right? It's like they're in the end, week 16, 17, 18. I don't even know how many weeks there is anymore, but you'll be around.
Yeah. We'll be around, and there will be teams that'll be scared of us. Like that's a natural order of things, right? Barring any catastrophic injuries.
Yeah. Well, I think every time you guys have played the Steelers, you've beaten us. So, but we're also just not very good right now. So we'll see what happens this year. We'll figure it out. So anyways, thanks for coming on. I don't know if you, I was going to say, I don't know if you want anybody to find you anywhere, but let's leave that where it's at. Don't say anything. I'm just in the recording.
My page is private, so you can't.
That's why I was like, that's not going to work. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, and I appreciate you. And I would say, I don't know what they say for 49. What is the Niners like thing? Like, do y'all have a hashtag or like a
Go Niners?
What is it?
Go Niners.
Oh, but do y'all have like a hashtag? Like, you know how like Bills have like Bills Mafia? It's like
Niner
Steelers
gang?
Nation. Oh, okay. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm learning.
Yeah, it's not like I use it. It's not like I run around and say Niners gang. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. For the record, I think Bills Mafia might be my favorite, unless somebody comes in and proves me wrong and has a better one. I don't know how you beat that. I think
Yeah,
that's
no,
phenomenal.
I don't. Yeah, Bills Mafia is pretty creative.
Yeah, that's pretty legit. That's pretty good. All right, Cole. Thanks for coming on.